So one of the aspects of my journey has clearly been my visual system. It seems like the visual system for me, not the majority of people, was the underlying issue. So apparently I was always farsighted, so I could see distance, but I couldn't see up close. From a very young age, it just went unrecognized. So I went 40 years, I'm 43 now, I went 40 years without corrected eyesight. And how did I survive? Well, I legitimately couldn't see, but of course I did see, but I couldn't see without creating a tremendous amount of strain in my system. A tremendous amount of tension in my cranium because of my eye muscles had to overwork for 40 years. And I think, and I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, I'm just throwing it out there because I think it's interesting, and I just think it's one of those things that people need to consider. People need to be aware of, that these types of things do happen, not for the majority of people, but they do happen. I feel like all of my compensations in life or the chronic pain in my life were the result of compensations that my brain had to go into to resolve this issue that I couldn't see properly. And thus, I think these compensations were making it seem like I had better vision than I really did. So I'm going to try to explain it by kind of like a timeline of major events in my life in terms of sensory experience of the ground, okay? Again, it might not make sense. I'm okay with that. I'm just trying to show that there's some interesting experiences that people may have and no one can explain it to them. Okay, so in January of 2018, I'm going to show a picture and hopefully you can see the difference between my neck, how it's very twisted and uneven in the first picture and how it's much straighter or much more balanced in the second picture, okay? That was the detorsioning. If in PRI there's something called a right torsion. It's not a PRI term, it comes from cranial sacral and osteopathic medicine, but it's just a patterned position of the pelvis, of the cranium that's relatively common. What you see is, and that neck is locked up. What you see is a neck that is now not locked up and actually has the ability to move. When I did that in January of 2018, when I finally got that neck to unlock, that was just incredible. I could touch my toes without restriction. My body just felt so loose. Whereas I had always been so stiff, and I didn't even really know it. I knew I was tight and stiff, but I just didn't realize how much until you're no longer really tight and stiff. Like, I could never touch my toes with a standing toe touch. Breathing felt so much different. There was like almost elastic recoil of my rib cage. Like it would rise with air upon inhalation, and it would be a soft end feel instead of just like a rock. So detorsioning of the neck, that was the first thing. And then in May of 2018, so 5 months later, I got my first pair of glasses. Now, I detorsioned my neck, but apparently it seems like my visual system was still trapped in the old neck, so to speak. This is where it gets complicated. But it's like, because of this torsioned position, when you think about a neck, think about teeth and eyes and fight or flight. When you're in this torsioned position for so long, your brain probably has to adapt your visual system to account for instability through the rest of your body. A lot of people will overuse their visual system to help stabilize their body when they have become too pathologic, as we say, especially in the left hip, whether maybe their hamstrings have been so elongated neurologically, so they're really not being used. Anything you have to do to stabilize your body, you may, once because you've lost stability, you may have to overuse your visual system to help stabilize it. So my visual system was probably reflecting a torsioned state, or the torsion came about because of my screwy visual system. Either way, I had a visual system that was matching this torsioned neck position. I got my neck out of the torsion, but the vision didn't go along with it. Nothing changed with my eyes. Like nothing, I didn't perceive any difference. I was wearing reading glasses at the time. So in April of 2018, my friend, who's an optician, said, you need to get your eyes checked. I went to a PRI seminar, and an optometrist there and another PRI therapist said, you need to get your eyes checked. So I did. And I went to the optometrist in 2018, and she said, well, you're farsighted. That was news to me. I didn't even know really what that meant. So I was farsighted. She gave me 2.0 in the right eye and 1.75 in the left eye. All right, so they're not equal. Again, 2.0 in the right eye, 1.75 in the left. The moment they put those glasses on me, I just remember just going like this, just being like, oh my God. That's what it's like. It was so easy to see. And I just felt the tension in my body just dissipate. It was insane. Within 45 minutes of driving home, I didn't have glasses on at that point. I had contact lenses. They gave me contact lenses. And I was driving home, and I wrote right here, my face melted. And what you're going to see in this next picture is the difference between the asymmetries in my face. I went from a very asymmetric face to a much less asymmetric face. Still a little bit of asymmetry, but it was much better. So my whole face kind of just rearranged. At that point, I believe my visual system immediately changed again to match the new reality that I was now better grounded. So after this, when my face melted, things were really good for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden I started getting muscle spasms in my left foot and my calf, and things started to feel off again. I think at that point, my vision got worse immediately. Now, did it really get worse? I don't know that it got worse. I think it just went to the state that it would have been in if I hadn't been using compensations to cover it up. Hope that makes sense. It might not. But I think when my face finally rearranged and the eyes literally changed positions and the orbit, the facial bones, everything switched or went into a more resting symmetric position, I think that just brought my visual system back into line with what it should be if I hadn't been using compensations to cover up the fact that I couldn't see properly. So my vision, quote unquote, got worse. Then, 2019. So I think pretty much May of 2018, I got my first pair of glasses. I think by September, or actually like August or September, I probably needed a new prescription. But either way, I didn't get the new prescription. I think my vision got worse very, very quickly. So I didn't get a new prescription until July of 2019, when I went out to PRI in Nebraska. They gave me, for my right eye, 2.25, and for my left eye, 2.50. And then they also didn't correct the astigmatism in my right eye so that my right eye could not be overused. Kind of a long story. But that is quite a jump, particularly with that left eye. It went from plus 175 to plus 2.50 in less than a year. And honestly, I think it probably happened in less than 3 months. Again, not because it got worse. I think I removed a compensation that was making my vision appear worse than it really, or no, to appear better than it really was. I think it's always been bad. I was just compensating for it. Within 2 months of that prescription, I felt a difference again. Like I just knew something was off. And that was probably September or October of last year. Now, at that point, I wasn't sure whether my prescription changed or I just needed to change my sneakers. So I went from custom orthotics with a really high arch. I started shaving all those down. So I started to reground myself. Those arches were now too high. So I started shaving them down. And I kept doing that. Things were just kept going back and forth, and I would always know because my back tension would increase whenever I wasn't balanced. So eventually I went to a high arch sneaker, a medium arch sneaker, and I'm down to a low arch sneaker as I'm getting more and more grounded. But I don't think that was the biggest deal. I think my prescription had changed again very quickly. So now in the spring, I obviously couldn't get anything done because of COVID. In June of 2020, like a couple months ago, or 2 months ago, I drove down to Virginia, and this is my new prescription. 2.50 in the right, 2.7. So again, I've gone up, 1.0 almost in a little bit over in 2 years. So my vision is getting worse and worse and worse. I think it's getting worse as I undo more compensations. The ironic thing is, as I get more grounded, I'm feeling my muscles better than ever, yet my vision is getting worse. That's the ironic thing. But again, I don't think my vision was ever good. It was just being covered up. It was just being overused. It wasn't the true visual system that I had. And now, I just got Invisalign yesterday. I got my first tray, and all of a sudden, my ears started to ring more. So I got a little nervous. My body, ironically, my body felt great yesterday. And oh my God, it's so easy to feel my left hamstring, my left adductor, and my left glute medius in an upright position now. Yet, I feel like my prescription changed again. And my glasses that I just got 2 months ago now don't seem like they're enough. So I just ordered, thankfully you can order glasses online. And so I just upped everything by 0.25. And hopefully that'll take care of it. So I think by putting in the Invisalign trays, it took away my bite, my habitual occlusion, and my brain was probably using this faulty habitual occlusion to again cover up for how bad my eyes really have always been. So I took away that compensation. I know it's like teeth, they're highly connected, trust me. Took away my bite because teeth can't touch. And boom, my vision gets worse again, I'm pretty sure, because it hasn't gotten better. I don't think it's going to get better. So I think it's gotten worse again. So we'll see if, the Invisalign because I need proper contact with my canines. And this is all taught in PRI. It's just really complicated. But I think by removing or by putting Invisalign away in the trays into my teeth, into my mouth, that does not permit my teeth to touch in their habitual occlusal way, that removed another compensation that my brain has been using to cover up for poor eyesight, and take that away, and now my vision gets worse. I know it's complicated. I'm not even sure I understand it. I might not even be describing it properly. I just know that every time I get more grounded and feel my muscles better and have a decrease in tension in my body and a decrease in ringing in my ears, it coincides with my eyesight getting worse. So I just want to make that video. I don't even know where it fits into your life, or even if it does, but if you are studying PRI or trying to understand how this human body comes about and how things can work, this is just one of those very counterintuitive situations that as I get better and better and better and more stable and feel my muscles better and health-wise, the ring in my ears and all this other stuff, as that improves, my eyesight gets better. Because I think all that stuff was a result of trying to compensate for poor eyesight in the beginning. So as I unwrap these compensations, my eyesight gets worse, even though it wasn't really getting worse. It's just going back to where it would have been if it wasn't being compensated for. Hope that made sense.